Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the July 26, 2018 Police and Fire Special Assessment District Town Hall meeting. Before today's meeting commences, I'd like to have everybody stand up and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Waterford Township Police Chief Scott Underwood, Waterford Township Fire Chief John Ryan. Gentlemen, it's yours.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening. Thank you for coming, and for those of you that are watching live, thank you for tuning in. We are holding this meeting because we want to make sure you're aware of the Special Assessment District, what's coming up on August 7th. I want to remind you this is a public safety special assessment. The monies raised, if approved, goes to the police and fire departments here in Waterford. The ballot language calls for up to 2.95 mils, and it's a 12-year assessment. It's based on your taxable value and not your SEV. The third paragraph on the fact sheet, if you've seen the fact sheet, it's available on the website. And as required by law, once approved by the voters, a public hearing will be held on August 27, 2018. We'll make a final determination as to the estimated costs and expenses at that particular time. And the assessment will be figured out at that point. The need for this is created to me by the fact that the current police and fire millages bring in much less monies today as compared to 2009 levels for the operations of these two departments. This is why the fire trucks are old, they're rusting out, they're falling apart, why fire and police positions have been eliminated, and why building maintenance has been greatly reduced. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Underwood.
Thank you, and appreciate everybody taking the time out of their evening to come or watch, either way. From the police department's perspective, our main objective here with the special assessment is to gain numbers in personnel. We're at a point now where we're about 27 officers down from where we were in 2010. At that point, there were 81 full-time police officers in the department, and today we operate with 54. So that's about a 33% reduction in personnel over that 7-year period. To put that in perspective, the national average of police officers per 1,000 residents is about 1.8 officers per 1,000, and we operate here at about 0.753, so less than 0.8. So we're more than one full police officer per 1,000 residents under the national average. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I applaud the men and women of the police department for the job they have done and continue to do with the number of people that we have. While we've had this drastic reduction in personnel, there has been no reduction in workload. Matter of fact, the workload has increased. Calls for service in 2010, our dispatch center handled about 38,000. Today, or as of 2017, we're up to 45,000. So that's an increase of 16%. Our detective bureau has investigated in 2017 a little over 2,000 cases, and in 2010 it was 1,995. To give you some perspective on that, back in 2010 there was between 12 and 14 detectives that worked in the detective bureau. Today we do it with 4 detectives and 1 detective sergeant. So they're doing the same amount of work with a drastically reduced force of people. Our budget back then in 2010 was a little over $15 million. Today it's 12.8. So the budget itself has been reduced by 16%. Now, like I said, the men and women have done a fantastic job of policing this township, and the crime stats show that. We've had a dramatic reduction in crime over the last couple of years, both violent crime and property crime. But the biggest issue is that over that 7-year period, we would have normally been moving people in retirement, and then moving new people, moving them out and moving new people in. But when the reduction hit, there were layoffs, there were buyouts, so it was a dramatic reduction of a lot of people all at once. So we haven't hired really up until recently. We've had a few retirements, so we've been able to fill those spots, but we haven't gained any numbers. So what that's done is it's created a workforce that is more senior. Of the 54 full-time police officers that we have, almost 30 will be able to retire in the next 4.5 years. Another 10, an additional 10, 2 years after that. So in the next 6.5 years, 40 of our 54 full-time police officers will be able to retire. The biggest problem for us is that as those people retire and we try to bring new people in, we're going to have a hard time training them fast enough, hiring them first off, training them fast enough, and deploying them just to be able to stay at the number we're at, let alone be able to grow our workforce. This will allow us to hire up to 9 new police officers. We'll be able to keep up with those retirements as they happen. It will allow us to sustain the numbers that we're at, to be able to operate like we do. We're lean, but we're efficient. And like I say, they've done a great job. So in terms of hiring new people, there's, and it's been widely reported, and it's happening across the country, is that not a lot of people want to be cops these days. So all these agencies fight for the same talent, which is a diminished group, a diminished talent pool just by sheer numbers. So we're all fighting for the same people. So it's important that we are able to recruit heavily, able to hire people now, and able to sustain the number that we have. Just to give you a little idea, in 2001 there were almost 23,000 police officers in the state. Today there's a little over 18,000. And it's not because the jobs aren't there, it's because everybody's having a hard time recruiting and hiring police officers. And we've been very fortunate. We have a great organization. We have an attractive organization. Word spreads in law enforcement and people want to come here because we've done such a good job at operating and the opportunities that are available for these people when they get here. There are some opportunities in terms of different jobs within the police department. We have a couple of K-9 officers. We have some limited spots in the detective bureau. We have some of those things that are attractive to people, and we have great people and a strong organization. So it's someplace for the most part up until now that people have wanted to come, and we hope so into the future. Equipment is more of a fire issue, although we've done a really good job at reducing the number of vehicles in our fleet, which has allowed us to be able to once again operate a little more efficiently. But we still need to turn over a few of those vehicles every year, move some of the high mileage cars out and move some new ones in, so that we don't get to a point with cars like we have with people where we are in a position where we need to replace a large number of them at any one time. It's not economically feasible, and it's not good management. So we've done a great job of doing that with the vehicles. We are now trying to do that with our personnel, and that's what this will allow us to do going forward. Okay.
Thank you. As far as the fire department is concerned, I'm going to follow the same track pretty much that the chief did on starting with personnel. This special assessment will allow the fire department to hire 5 new positions, create 5 new positions. In 2015, 3 positions went away due to attrition, and that was to fill the deficit. Because we cannot be in deficit spending. We have to have a balanced budget. And so we lost three firefighters. So this allows us to get those 3 back and then add a couple more as well. Chief Underwood talked about staffing per 1,000 for our residents. And I just looked at the numbers today. We're a member of the Oakway Mutual Aid Organization, and we are the lowest fire department for rating for personnel at about 0.8. And the national recommendation is 1 per 1,000. And so we are the lowest. And as the chief said, for the police department, I also applaud our firefighters. We're doing more calls than ever before, and we're just, it's amazing what our guys are able to do. My office is in the corner at the headquarters here, and Engine 1, Rescue 1 is going out of that station all day long. And so I see that, the deputy chief sees that, and I applaud all of our guys for what they're doing. Number 2 on my list is our fire vehicles. Our biggest need is fire vehicles. The chief said his is personnel, and our biggest need is vehicles. The weather, the road conditions, salt on the roads, call volume, are all attributed to the demise of our trucks, our fire trucks and ambulances. We did have a truck replacement plan, and it goes back to like 2001, and it had to be scrapped once the economy tanked in 2009. And so we've not purchased fire trucks since 2002, 16 years. We did institute a $100,000 a year saving plan for the fire department to pay for trucks, and with fire engines costing about $500,000, ambulances about $200,000. There's simply no way that $100,000 a year keeps up. It has helped tremendously. It has helped, but it doesn't get the job done. I have an aerial truck that's 1991. It sits at Station 1. It's 27 years old. It's $1.3 million to replace it, and it has to be replaced. The average age of our fire engine is about 17 years old, and we have 2 of them that are 24 years old. We really cannot do much preventative maintenance anymore. We're doing repairs, and that's much more costly. And our out-of-service time for these trucks is increasing every year. As I said, our last truck was purchased in 2002 that Waterford Township purchased. Lake Angeles, through the contract that we have with them, they bought us a truck in 2003. And that truck is in service today. That truck's 15 years old. In 2017, we did purchase 2 engines. We just are taking delivery of them here in 2018. It was funded by that $100,000 savings plan I talked about, and through our fund balance, and also through some general fund money that was put into the fire department. Our average age of our ambulances is 7 years old. Doesn't sound very old, but when they're running as much as they are, most of them have over 100,000 miles, and the 3 new ones are close to 75,000 to 80,000 miles already. 4 of those 7 will be 10 years old next year. Earlier this year, one of our ambulances broke down while transporting a patient to the hospital. He was safely transported by another truck. He was transferred to another ambulance, but we can't have trucks breaking down. I got have trucks on the road that'll pump water and that'll pick up patients. In 2015, in order to purchase some trucks, working with the township treasurer, we were able to secure a loan in order to pay for trucks, and we're still making payments on those. Call volume. Our call volume in 2010 was 6,000. In 2017, it's 8,500 here in Waterford. That's a 42% increase. Our trucks are taking a beating, and they need to be replaced. That's really all I've got for right now. I'm ready to entertain questions.
Yep. Like I said, we appreciate everyone coming. We have tried to present the facts as best we can, and we We would welcome any questions that anybody has. We just ask that when it comes time for you to ask a question, you step to the microphone, state your name, and go ahead with your question. We'll try and give you the best response we possibly can. If there's some piece of information for some reason we can't get you right here on the spot, we'll be happy to do it and get back to you. So with that, if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
How you doing, Chief? I'm Shane Klug. We both know each other.
Yes, sir.
I got 3 questions for you. And you know I'm an avid supporter of the fire department, so that's without question. I got 3 questions. I think you probably know what one of them is. The first one is, where are these rigs going to go? Because I don't feel comfortable spending my money to put a rig in another city.
Well, Waterford has 5 fire stations right now,
Correct.
so they're going to go into Waterford fire stations.
Okay, so the first 5 will go into Waterford, and then number 6 and beyond can go other places from there?
It's possible.
Okay, as long as the first 5 come here, then you got my support.
You're going to have a tower truck. That's 6 trucks. You're going to have all the ambulances all stay in Waterford.
Okay, excellent. I got 2 other just curiosity questions.
Sure.
Do you guys have any plans to refurbish rigs as a means to save some money?
We've actually talked about that with Tower 1. We can actually take the ladder off of that tower and refurb that and put that onto it.
Right, that's $100,000 savings right there.
And we've that question came up at the May 1st or 2nd meeting about remounting, and I think that gentleman's here somewhere to ask that question. And we are actually looking at remounting rescues as well. We want to, Matt and I have talked about our the boxes on the back of the rescues, and that we should be able to recycle them at least twice. So we should get 3 lives out of them.
Okay, and then I,
Yes, and that's a huge savings because you're talking $180,000 to $200,000 for a rescue versus about $120,000.
okay, and then I have one last question that, and I don't want to get into running your show for you, but I was just kind of curious, could there be an SOP put in place that we don't run these engines on every single stomach ache in the township, so that way they might last a little longer? Maybe prioritize, because where I work, and for those who don't know, I'm a fireman also, we don't go on every stomach ache. We only go on priority 1 runs for EMS runs, just to put a little less wear and tear on the rigs.
Our guys are very careful about that. They don't go on every stomach ache run there is, every stub toe. We talk about that regularly. I have a battalion chief in the back, and those guys, the officers on the trucks know, and there are times when they don't know what the call is. You know, it comes in as an unknown medical.
Sure.
It comes in as difficulty breathing. Well, you don't know. You know, in fact, I think earlier, yesterday, we had a call that came in as difficulty breathing, and it ends up being cardiac arrest. So our officers are very good about screening those calls. They don't go on every single call. They don't every time they go to urgent care or to a nursing home. They don't go on it. They do not go to every general weakness call, as you would know from the fire service.
Sure. That's
So
all.
we are careful about that, but there are some, like I said, we just don't know.
Right.
So
All right, appreciate it, Chief.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for the question.
Evening, gentlemen.
Hello, Tom.
Hi there, John. Tom Schultz here. Been in Waterford since '86. And just wanted to ask for everybody here, residents of Waterford, when you looked at your winter tax bill that had to be paid on February the 14th, there were six assessments on there for fire and police. 6 of them go back to 1998. And the last 4 or 5 have come up every other year. And the board, the gentleman here, they put it down as the fact that these were all needed for additional staff in operations. I think that's what we just heard again tonight, additional staff in operations. But
Well,
yeah,
the renewals,
6
every time they're renewed, Tom, it's for the people that they've already hired. It's not for new hires.
I'm reading what has been printed on the township board as to what these assessments were issued for.
Well, we're
not
not-
getting into details because I don't have those details.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to share that with you, that once you get, let's say a millage hires 10 guys, 10 people, excuse me, can't say guys, 10 people.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean when it comes up for renewal that those 10 become 20, it means that those 10 are still working.
That may or may not be true. What I'm trying to point out is when we have 6 of them on the books and 4 of them have just been in the last 4 years, it looks to me like somebody in the township hierarchy, and most of you guys have been here for a long time, don't know how to do future planning. So my opinion is the fact that the township, what they put on their website is that they will be used for additional staff and operations, which is a very vague term as to where the monies were actually spent.
Are you referring to the ballot language for the SAD or for previous millages?
Both. Because all it does is the SAD is, from what I saw, it just lists, if you collectively put it all together, it's still for additional staff and operations. And when listening to you, both you gentlemen tonight, that's exactly what you said if you want to put it into a category. What I'm trying to say is that we go through the same thing every 2 years, and if I ran my house that way, I think I'd be kicked out of it.
Well, but the millages are expire every 10 years, at least the fire department. Millages expire every 10 years, so you might have one that goes in 07, one that goes in 09, one that goes in 13.
Right, that's correct. Why do we need millages every 2 years if they're a 10-year? Some of these millages are going till we will still be paying for them in 2024 and 2026, and now we're going to be putting another one on here for another 12 years, which won't be paid off till 2030. And so what I'm saying is that we're just running a big tax of the folks here that continually goes on and on and on. There's no end in it. I don't get an increase in my retirement. I'm retired, and I know there's a lot of folks here that are. They don't get increases every year, every 2 years to cover what appears to be needed here, because nobody can do proper planning more than a year or 2 out. And so we come to the people and want more money out of where? Out of the people's pot. I'm currently paying right now $635 a year to cover those 6 assessments. And now you're asking me to pay another $321. So me, just one person here in Waterford, and I'm sure all the rest of you, I looked up what's going to cost you. I'm going to be close to $1,000 a year just to cover police and fire. It has nothing to do. I don't really know. When you look at the assessments, it says township operations. I don't think anybody knows, except maybe the treasurer, as to what township operations consist of. And nothing to do with police and fire.
Both
you mean police and fire always run off special assessments? Is that true?
No, that's not true. And both the police
okay, so there's more money than what I've already pointed out.
Both the police and fire budgets are online. If you want to take a look, it'll tell you exactly where all that money goes. And I'll tell you this: the majority, those millages, the police department receives money from 2 separate millages, and those millages fund about $6 million of the $12.8 million budget. The remainder of that comes from the general fund. And like Chief Lyman said, those are 10-year millages. When they come up for renewal. And they're not, it's not new money. It's not to add new additional. You keep saying additional. It's not to add additional personnel. It's to maintain where we're at. And as far as what you're paying in taxes, I'll just refer to what, if you, I'm sure, probably watch the township board meetings. I'll refer to what a great example that the city clerk gave. She pays $600 less a year on her tax bill than she did back in 2000. I can't remember if it was 8 or 9. 2002. 2002. So $600 less today than she did in 2002. So over that period of time, she's $600 to the good for the last 16 years. And even if it'll cost her, this will cost her an additional $200 a year. So as she pays that additional $200 a year, she's still $400 to the good, not to mention the $6,000 cumulative for the last 16 years. It's just, the fact is that this township receives less tax money than they did in 2008 and 2009, and they've done a great job at making sure that they are as efficient and as lean as they can be. They've closed pension systems. They've They've negotiated contracts with with every union in this township where they've made concessions. They've done everything they can to make sure that they can operate with the money that they receive, which is far less than it was in 2008 and 2009. People have been laid off. There have been personnel reductions everywhere. I don't remember the exact township-wide number of employees that were employed in 2008 or 9, but it's far less today than it was then.
Okay, that sounds like we listened to the first part of your presentation here, is that there always appears to be a reason to come back and ask for more money every year. The facts speak for themselves.
If there wasn't a good reason, we wouldn't be here.
Come to you.
Well, like I say, when I look at my tax bill and everybody else looks at their tax bill, and every 2 years we're asked to fork over more money, the bottom line is it's coming out of pockets that really don't have it. And so we have to look at the fact that these are the folks here that have been put in charge of the township and of our facilities here, and it doesn't appear to me that they're able to manage the monies they got, no matter what reasons or anything else that they have.
This would be nice if you think that, and please don't take this the wrong way, if you think that that's going on, then you need to address that with the township supervisor and the township board. But that's really not for this particular meeting. This particular meeting is to give you facts and information about the special assessment district. Not to say that the township is mismanaging funds or however, whatever word you want to use. If you want to address that, I would suggest that you get on the township board meeting agenda and bring those items up. If you believe that in your heart, then bring that up. We're giving you the special. We're telling you that the 5 millages for police and fire do not bring in the same amount of money today as it did in 2009, 2002, as Ms. Sue has talked about.
The bottom line is that every 2 years you're coming back and asking for more money to constantly run an operation. Like I say, we only have to believe what we want to believe.
I wouldn't say more. I would say renewals for.
Well, this is sad. It's not a renewal. I mean,
No,
if it was a renewal,
You're
talking about renewals, so.
right? If it was a renewal, why didn't we just renew the bond?
No, you
One that's
said
coming up
renewals. You
this
said
year.
every 2 years. This
Why did we renew the bond?
Because they're renewed
Right.
after 10 years each one. But if you look at what's posted on the township board, they tell you the exact date and time that they were renewed.
Okay, Tom, there are some other people I'm sure that want to ask some questions, so let me ask you this. Do you have a question?
No, I wanted to make a few statements to it.
Okay, thank you.
Roland Garcia.
Hello, Mr. Garcia.
I retired from Pontiac with badge number 121. Before long, we were down to in the 80s of patrolling. We did
What was the
more
max?
with
Can I
less.
ask you what your department was when it was at its peak, the number?
121, that's what I hired on as. Badge
And
number.
I think it was even higher than that at one point, wasn't
It could have been.
it? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
So we dropped way down and we did more with less. Why? Because the people of Pontiac could not afford it. You look at our police station, you look at the fire station. I look at your police station. Is it filled to the capacity?
No,
No. Is the gun range operative?
it is.
No.
Oh, it
I
is.
look at the fire station, state of the art. Now you're asking us to fork over 12 years of money. Why 12 years? You know, the thing is, are you considering that people are going to be retiring within that time? Are you going to consider that people are going to lose a loved one during that time? Our taxes are going up? I don't think so. Now, the estimated revenue from the special assessment that you collect the first year is you put in $6 million. Out of that money, how much will be spent? And how much will be in surplus?
It'll all be spent.
Is there a record of what you
$6
plan to spend?
million, this will
Okay,
garner $6
let me
million.
finish, please. Now, that's the first year. How about the second year? Is there going to be a surplus? How about the third year? How about the 12th year? Is there going to be a surplus? If there is a surplus, where's that money going to go?
There won't be any surplus.
No, you're gonna make sure that it's spent somehow.
Mr. Garcia, it says in the ballot language, it's up to 2.95. So every year it'll be evaluated. And
So-
it may not be 2.95, but as Chief Underwood said, it has to be accounted for in our spending.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, and my other question is that, you guys put the lowest taxable value of a home on the sheet.
No, I think,
I think it's an average. It's an average.
56,000 is an average of this township?
Taxable value,
Okay.
taxable value.
Of all the houses, that's the average.
That's the average.
There's no way, I don't even believe that.
the value of the home would be double that. The taxable value is 56,000.
Right, and what I'm saying is that if somebody lives, say, in 200 average taxable value, what more is he gonna get from police and fire? Is a fire truck gonna sit up in his home, or a police car gonna sit in front of that house? Because he's paying, 3 times, 4 times more?
No, unfortunately, or fortunately, that's not how it works. The people with more money don't get more service. We can't pick and choose.
Exactly, so why am I paying more, or the people paying more than somebody
We want to
that...
respond to with the police department. When people call, we go.
Okay. I'm for police and fire, because that's the way I grew up. I'm still employed as an officer after 46 years. But I want that money spent wisely. And like the man was saying, and you guys are saying, no, it's not a new tax. We're just renewing it.
No,
it's-
no,
it's
sir.
a-
No, sir.
I'm talking about the other
He's
taxes.
talking about renewals. Those are
Yeah,
renewals.
these still taxes. No matter how you cut it, they're still taxes.
Right, but the voters are allowed to vote on those every 10 years.
They are.
They are.
But the thing is that somebody's got to tell these people the truth. All of a sudden, how many people knew about this meeting or the meetings coming up? It's not hardly advertised at all. Is it the fault of us? I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'll just address one portion of a previous question. There was a question about why 12 years. 12 years because when these questions have been asked previously and there was no sunset on this special assessment, people wanted to know why. Why was it vote once and then it's forever? Well, in this case, it will do the same thing that the millages do. It will come up for a renewal. And the second thing is, with a 12-year period, it keeps it out of the presidential election year. So less politics involved, more about a decision that the citizens can make on a renewal without people politicizing the particular issue to be elected or to stay in office or any of those other outside agendas. Anybody else?
Got a lady right here. Come on down. Ladies first.
I'll move down the front row.
Hi, my name is Alice Stoddard, and I had spoken with both of you chiefs yesterday and today, so I could get some information. Also, insofar as where is it published, I went to the website today, Waterford's website, and the information was on there, and I believe it came in our taxes as well as the newspapers. So I think the word was distributed to people. It's just whether they marked it on their calendar and remembered to look it up. A couple things. I'm not quite retired. Well, I am from one job, but I'm still working. If we don't have police and fire, we're not going to get quality personnel because we won't be able to offer the salary and the benefits and the packages. And secondly, we need police and fire. We're going to need more services as we're an aging community. Personally, I was a little taken aback having come from a 911 dispatching perspective that the fire department doesn't always respond on stomach aches or whatever, but if I call somebody, I want somebody to respond.
You're going to get fire trucks.
Right, I just might not get the whole rig or the
It's not
ambulance
gonna
or
get the
whatever,
whole
right? I figured maybe the police would respond and evaluate.
The rescue will show up.
Okay.
The rescue.
And that's to me what I pay for. It's like I pay my home insurance or my car insurance. I hope I never need it, but if I need it, it's there. And that's what I want from the police and the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carl Horton.
Hey, Carl.
I've been a Waterford resident, probably since the early 80s, grew up in Pontiac. Excuse me. First of all, thank you for your presentation. But I do have a ton of questions. Number one is the starting salary for firefighters and police officers in the township.
I'm gonna say, I don't have that in front of me. I'm gonna say 50,000 on our.
Yeah, it's roughly a little over 50,000 starting salary.
My next question would be, how many of your personnel, including command staff and your support people, actually live in the township?
I don't have that.
For you, I can get it for you.
That's a concern to me. I know there's not a residency rule.
I would say the majority.
There's probably you can live so far away as far as response time goes, but still, that is a big concern to me.
Just so you're aware, and you probably know this, but for other people, the legislature did away with residency requirements years ago. It used to be that, cities and townships would require not only their public safety people, but also all city workers to live in that particular city or township, and the legislature said no more.
I know you mentioned earlier too about the.
Can I ask you one question?
Oh, sure.
So, what's your concern regarding people that live or don't live in the township?
I have no concern. It's just that you're asking me to support this. I'm
No, I
a
was
township
curious.
resident. Yeah, I'm a township resident.
Yeah.
You're coming to me asking me to support this, but then I want to know how many actual police and firefighters actually live in the township that are going to support this too.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
I will tell you that, and Chief made talked about recruitment. It is getting harder and harder to find personnel, and we don't just take them just from Waterford Township. Some of them come from the east side, some of them come from Graham Lake area, but it's becoming harder and harder to find police and firefighters. As it is with here in the trades, they have trouble finding electricians, they have trouble finding. They just do. So we are venturing out to the outside.
You said something too about your aerial truck, and that's a concern to me because this being a regional firefighting operation, I'm going to assume that the aerial truck probably is better utilized in the city of Pontiac. They have a couple high-rise apartment buildings. The township here does not.
The township has 2 6-story buildings. We have Myers. It's not just for high rises. That building can be used. We have Canterbury on the Lakes. We have multiple 1450 Whispering Woods. We have multiple buildings that are large enough to put that tower up in the air. That tower is not going to go. None of the towers in Detroit are going to reach up to the 16th floor of any building, 15th floor of any building. So, but there is a tower staffed station in Pontiac also that was given to us. It's a $1 million tower that was given to us in 2012 by the city of Pontiac.
How much, as far as runs go, has that aerial truck been used in the last 2 years?
I don't have that information right in front of me, but not a ton. But it's.
Yeah, the issue I have is, I'm a retiree like many people here. I retired January 7th from one job. I retired from another job in December 2013.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. But the whole thing is, for me, is, being on a fixed income now. And this is nothing more than a tax. Tax isn't even a word. You can call it a special assessment district. But this is probably a similar proposal that was made 4 years ago, which the township rejected.
Well, it didn't include the fire department for one thing, and the other thing was that last one was a forever tax. This is a 12-year tax, so it's not quite the same.
Exactly, yeah.
The implications of it being a special assessment district.
Yeah, there was no end to that. Geez, I had another question. I can't remember what it was. As far as the police vehicles, are those leased or they're purchased? Yeah. And then what about the motorcycle unit?
We have 6. We've negotiated a deal over the last 2 years where we've been allowed to keep those bikes, and we pay for 4 and get 6 in return. So we've negotiated a reduction in that cost as well.
Do you see that as a waste of money on those?
No, I think it's a good tool. I think it comes in handy in traffic enforcement areas. It comes in handy sometimes in neighborhoods. It comes in handy in different particular situations. It's not normally something that we do all day, every day. If we had enough people, or if this department was of a size where we could dedicate personnel to that as a particular unit, we would use it as a pure traffic enforcement unit because they can get to places that cars can't get to.
We don't have motorcycles, just for
Do you know how much that costs the township?
The motorcycles, it's roughly $8,000 a year for 6 motorcycles.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Come on down. Right here. Take the guy in the green here next, okay? Sir, be next.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is George Alsbrooks. I want to first thank you for your service to the community, and then also thank you for being in the hot seat tonight.
Thank you.
I know I'm nervous, but I imagine it's difficult for you up there too. So I have 2 questions. My first one is the way they, and my mind's gone blank on what it's called, what we're going to vote on.
Special Assessment District.
Yeah, it's sort of worded poorly in that it says the first .425 goes towards equipment, but it doesn't explain what the rest goes towards. And in talking to some people, I got the impression that they think that the money can be used for anything. Does the law say that it must go for fire and police, and so the township can't use it to buy ice cream trucks or something like that?
Right, and it says, it's,
Specifically for police and fire.
right,
The
and
whole
the
amount,
wording specific, should the Charter Township of Waterford raise money to equip, maintain, and operate the township police and fire departments by an annual special assessment?
Okay. The next question is,
So no ice cream trucks.
and I'm a relatively new resident. I've been in the community for less than 3 years. So when you talk about these people who are going to pay like $150 or something, that's not me. I'm going to pay way more than that. So when I run the numbers on how much I'm paying for police and fire, and I include in the roughly 74% that the general township, the general fund kicks into police and fire, that comes out to a 33% increase in what I'm going to pay for police and fire total for the year. It seems a little high that you guys are actually going to get the 33%. So what I suspect is the township is looking to offload the fire and police costs out of the general fund, pay that on the special district assessment, and that way they can use the general fund money for other things. Is that the case, or are you guys still going to continue to receive the 74% from the general fund that you receive now? And do we have any assurance of that?
Well, number one, I would say that the general fund has propped up police and fire especially since 2009. And if I recall, if I'm correct on this, the general fund, every dollar that goes into the general fund goes into police and fire. Is that correct?
That slideshow last in May had it at 74%.
Yeah, it's really high what the general fund is paying for, and it's because those millages only bring in so much money compared to what they did in 2009. The general fund has very much so had to prop up police and fire.
Agreed, but are you going to continue to receive that 74%, or is this SDA going to replace that? And so you're actually only really getting a small increase.
No, we will continue to receive. We will receive all of the $6,000 that comes in. Right now, we start the year, or $6 million. $6 million that comes in. Right now, we start the year, our budget at a deficit, roughly $360,000 for the police department.
About 300.
Okay, so that money will be a part of the general fund transfer to recoup that deficit that we start at. Everything else will be used for personnel cost and equipment, period. Only for police and fire.
Okay, so do we have any assurance of that? Because like Board of Trustees, they're all up for election again in 2020, I think.
Based
So
on this
new
bill,
people-
they're legally
That's
bound to
true.
make sure that all that
Right.
money stays with the police and fire department.
For the SDA, but not for what you're getting from the general fund.
Well, in order to be able to continue to operate, even with this is above and beyond. So we will continue to have, I can speak for the police department. We will get $6 million in our $12.8 million budget. We get $6 million from 2 police millages. The rest comes primarily from the general fund, and will continue to do so. The money that we receive from the SAD will be above and beyond our $12.8 million budget and allow us to hire additional personnel.
Okay, and then that was my concern, is making sure that this is new money and not just a way of shifting money around to cover other costs.
Correct.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That was my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, my name is Lynn McLean, and I'm probably the newbie in the group. I've lived in Oakland County most of my life, but only in Waterford for about a year. And I've just followed this discussion with great interest. First of all, I strongly support the work that you all do, that your fire and police staffs do, and I strongly support the things that make a community a safe and attractive place to live. When we bought our house about a year ago, nobody even showed us the house with that assessed value that you talked about. But we don't live in a big lake house either. You know, it's just kind of a middle of the road house over off Clintonville Road. And it is of interest to my husband and I because this would represent fully a 10% increase in our property tax, over just our first year in the house. Now, with this, some of my questions you've already answered, but one kind of a factual question. I am not familiar with the use of special assessment districts to fund what might be considered ongoing expenses. I'm more familiar with them for a project like paving a road or running water lines, kind of a once and done, and the residents on that road pay for what they're going to get. Here, you alluded to a special assessment about 4 years ago that did not pass. I think I saw reference to one online that maybe was in 2012. I don't know if that passed or not. I don't even know if that's accurate. Could you just give us a little bit of a picture of how special assessments have been used for your purposes and your needs over, you keep referring as benchmark years, 2009, 2010?
Well, I'm using 2009, 2010 because that's when the Great Recession, Great Depression, whatever you want to call it, occurred. But I'm not completely up on special assessments other than for government operations. Right now, we do not have any special assessments that are funding regular government operations.
Well, the reason I refer to it that way, pardon me, Chief Lyman, is that, a 12-year assessment, if you all hire the personnel you need, buy the trucks you need, get everything that you need, hopefully the seniority of those new officers is going to be more than 12 years. It's going to keep on going. And the trucks that are making it right now are going to need to be replaced. So those I do see as ongoing kinds of expenses for salaries, benefits, and equipment.
Yes, and the special assessment, I just looked at the resolution that was passed by the board. I just looked at that today. Credit keep me up to date with some of that stuff. And I couldn't quote the law, but there is state law that allows for the township to ask the voters for a public safety special assessment. And I couldn't quote you the law, but I know it's.
But that's kind of an umbrella
it's quoted in the resolution.
that's in there, right? So it could be the road or the water or public safety, right? That's one of the categories.
For this particular, we're just talking police and fire, public safety. That's it. But special assessment. You're asking the wrong guy about special assessment.
We can talk about operational costs and the police and fire budget and the operations and the cost with regard to personnel. But legal questions about tax issues or special assessment, I couldn't tell you. Maybe Gary Wall here can help answer that question.
This is still their show. Oh, in case you don't know, me and Gary Wall, Township Supervisor. This is still their show, but any questions that will help, I can ask. Special assessments for roads don't involve the township. They're done through the road commissioner of Oakland County. So we don't have any special assessments for roads. Nothing.
Okay.
There's no special assessments that run the operations of any department in this township.
Right. Okay. As far as like sometimes you do SEDs for sidewalks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be an example.
We bond all of our sewer and water work. We bond all that out. We don't do SEDs on that. And
so that's all done under millage?
Well, no, that's all done through the Department of Public Works, which is an enterprise fund. It has nothing to do with the general fund.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And the special assessments that you see right now, especially if you're a lakefront owner, is there's special assessment districts for the treatment of the lakes and the care of the lakes that you may live on.
Weed control and stuff like that. Yep.
Okay,
But
that does
not for the
clarify.
operations of the township.
That does clarify, and I think that my next question and my last one is maybe just something that would allow you a little bit of opportunity to clarify. I mean, it does seem like over 12 years, that's a lot of money. There's no doubt it's a lot of money. And I think the wording of the proposal as it's worded is not comfortable for folks. It feels a little fuzzy. Up to. You know what? If you need 10 officers, you ought to get 10 officers, not 6, because that's up to. Not 2,
I don't
because
think that's
up
not an
to.
issue. We're talking, you know, and we put this fact sheet out because this is what we felt that the SAD should be used for.
Mm-hmm.
And so those facts, but you have trucks that are going to change in price over the 12 years. You have trucks, you have the cost of building and maintenance that's going to change over those 12 years. So the up to, it may be, like I said, it may be a little bit less. It may be, but it can't go any higher than 2.95.
Mm-hmm. I would just voice, and I think a gentleman, a couple of folks back in speaking, voiced this same thing, and that is that, you know, there is, I'm sure you all follow the social media, just a level of discomfort that there isn't a strategic plan for how this would be used, and that there doesn't seem to be an opportunity to do that until after it's passed. And that is not it's not feeling real transparent as a member of the community.
Well,
that
over 12 years, I mean, we're telling you we're going to hire 9 and 5, but in 2019, am I going to tell you that I'm buying a new tower truck, you know, in this little fact sheet?
Well, not in a fact sheet, but again, a solid strategic plan, organizational strategic planning is just part of what, honestly, what organizations are kind of expected to do and typically do. So that I just want to share and have you know, have the opportunity to address that a little bit, that the budget not being fleshed out until a month after this proposed passage. And I think that the other uncomfortable piece to this is putting this forward in the August election as opposed to the November election. You know, the August election, if I was a gambler, I'd lay $5 around that table and tell you know, you're going to have a smaller turnout. And also concern in that bigger picture, we all have to strategic plan in our brains. There will be the rec center proposal coming right on the heels in November. And I don't know what else is in the works there, but if you could, I'm going to just take a seat, but if you could just address, you know, some of that planning strategies and the placement of this on an August ballot as opposed to the November ballot, that's something I'd appreciate a lot.
As far as vehicles, yep, thank you, appreciate the question. Okay.
As far as the August ballot, and I'll take credit for putting that on making this information available to the rest of the board and both departments, okay? The 1st of August, every department head in the township will have to have their preliminary 2019 budget turned in for our budget people, okay? We will start, myself and the budget director, the assistant budget director will start crunching those numbers immediately. By December 15th, we have to have the 2019 budget adopted and turned into the state of Michigan. So our one board meeting in December, which is somewhere between the 10th and the 12th of December, when we do the budget meeting and present it. Okay, so it takes us, department heads turning it in, preliminary budget meetings, public budget meetings. It takes about 2.5 to 2 3/4 months to put all that stuff together. Then the budget people carry it to the finish line, bring it to the board meeting. Okay, if it goes on the November ballot, we've got 5 weeks to get it ready and get it into the state. And again, budgets are tight, and you have to crunch numbers and crunch them and crunch them. It's not a whole lot different than your household budget. You got X amount of dollars to go around, and I understand it. I have a household budget too. Always have that one, but you've only got so much to go around. And it takes that long to get it straightened out. So if it's on the August primary ballot and it's approved or not approved, regardless, either way, we got that 2 3/4 month period. You got our budget together to get it adopted and then presented to the state. So we got that time period to get that all together and crunch the numbers, and we know what numbers we got to work with. Now, to address a question there earlier, it came up about where the money was going to go. Okay, the township's general millage all goes to police and fire, every penny of it. they've got their millages plus the general millage goes to police and fire. And then this year, I think it was another $930,000 went to police and fire, okay? Coming in to this year projected, now we have fund balance. Fund balance set aside, we have a healthy fund balance, so you try not to dip into the fund balance and live off your fund balance. That's not a good way to do it. But we projected coming in this year to be $1,080,000 in the red. So you take that $970,000 that comes additionally out of the general fund besides the entire transfer away, we're real close to being balanced. Okay, we're real close to being balanced. So we need to come up with funding to help support police and fire. Part of that's going to come through the SAD. This isn't a bait and switch. If you're going $1 million in the hole, you don't have the $970,000 to go there. Police and fire are essential services. They're always going to be. They're never going to go away. So, crunching all these numbers and looking at them, again, we've come up with this. And another thing, the more you put out on this stuff, the more confusing it becomes. And the more confusing it becomes, the more irritated people get, and the more misunderstanding people get. But see, you try and keep it as simple as possible, but as far as new equipment, new police officers, new firefighters, maintaining our old equipment until we get past the turning point where we've got more new than old in our police and fire stations, the money's gone. But again, the SAD is reevaluated. Every year it's reevaluated. And if you don't need the money, I can tell you under my sweat, watch, we're not going to appropriate it to spend. So, but that's, I got to take you for your word, you got to take me for my word. That's how we do business. But again, at the same time, that's how it works right there. So
I wanted to address strategic planning real quick. You asked about that, and we submitted a truck replacement plan that's projected way out. It goes beyond this SAD to the budget. Well, to Gary Wall, supervisor first, and then the budget. So we are doing strategic planning as well.
I took it up 24 years. It's only a 12-year SAD. I'm not saying it's to be run. Just for fun, I was on a roll, so I just took it up 24 years. I did call one of our large, I called acquaintance mine at General Motors to ask what to factor in on an annual basis. 24 years from now, who knows how much these costs will go up annually. He gave me a percentage to factor in on an annual basis. From this year to 24 years down the road, my God. I figure if I'm alive, then I won't know what those numbers mean anyways, but they're astronomical. You keep compounding that 4 or 5%, whatever the number was every year, and you do it all 24 years, it's double the cost. So,
right. In '91, that tower cost $500,000. It costs 1.3 to replace right now, and our revenues have declined drastically.
Mr. Wall?
Sorry.
Mr. Garcia, how are you tonight?
Fine, sir. Just since we have you here and we have our treasurer here, there was
Get our township clerk is here too.
Thank you.
And board members.
And there was a question proposed that the chief said that money that goes into the general fund will continue to go to police and fire if this special assessment is passed. He said that it would, but I want to hear it from you and our treasurer that is true.
The entire transfer of general fund taxes will go to police and fire. Will continue to go there.
We'll continue to go there.
Right. We can no longer continue to reach into the general fund and go into a deficit to support police and fire.
But so the same amount of money that was going in the past is not going to continue to go the same amount.
We don't have it to give anymore. Like I said, when you give, we had to take $970,000 out of fund balance. Technically, we're at a positive because we have fund balance. You're required by the state of Michigan. You're required to have fund balance, but you dip into that fund balance, and on the numbers of your annual budget, you're
If this passed, what is going to be given to police and fire?
The entire general fund transfer, like it is right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
My name is Colette Rosati, and I've been a resident of Waterford for about 3 years. And I wanted to say that I appreciate what you do. I started out life as a nurse, so we all appreciate police and fire. I am a little concerned as a nurse and just a regular citizen. I am not fond of when I see a car accident. There's not necessarily here, but in many cities, 2 or 3 fire trucks and an ambulance. I think it's overkill.
Well, when you consider the number of people, the number of first responders who have been killed in road, accidents, they've been struck.
While helping someone.
We are pulling engines up to block lanes, and I am very impatient on the road. When I got traffic backed up, I don't like it. But
I understand.
We are going to protect our responders and the patients, and we're going to do that with big red trucks.
Well, that's good, and I appreciate that. I did want to say that this is a very large tax increase. I did the calculation on my home, and I will say that for my home, I'm going to pay $1,189.45 per year. We'll call that $1,200.
Did you use the calculator on
Yes,
the website?
I did. Times 12 years, it's $14,000. That's a lot of money. And I also find it hard to believe there's so many homes that are worth $50,000 taxable, because everyone in the town has made money on their home. If you've owned real estate since 2012, it's only done one thing: it's gone up. And in the next 12 years, whoever does the assessment of real estate value is also going to increase the real estate value, because the fact of the matter is they've become more valuable.
But remember, your SEV can go up, but your taxable value can only go up at 5%, or the rate of inflation, whichever is less.
Right, but for people who bought their home recently, like in 2016, that value, I think, was set from the moment I bought it. So we want to encourage new growth and new blood, new people coming here, buying and paying dollars. So I think that's important to consider. I also share the sentiment of many people. I think it's very wrong, and I'm going to share this with everyone in the room. Everyone should get on their new state elected representatives and senators. There should be a statewide law that no tax increase should ever be on a ballot in August. The pure and simple fact, 90% of the hard-working, non-government employees are busy working like a dog, just trying to stay afloat and paying their taxes. And it's wrong to put it in August. I know you have your reasons, but I would like to see it only every 4 years and in a presidential year. I don't call it politics. It's when regular people are engaged, they're able to pay attention, and they vote. And most often they'll vote against a tax increase. So I believe the whole reason why you put it on in August is because 90% of the people are going to be on vacation getting their kids ready for school. So I think that's unfortunate. I don't blame you for doing it. And if, certain people were in your chair, city council, what have you, the police and fire didn't do it, but I'm sure you weren't against it. I mean, when do you ever say, no, let's give the people a rest, let's not tax them anymore? That doesn't happen too often. So I just think all of us, there's so few non-government employees anymore. People forget that librarians are government employees. All the schools, your rec department, that's going to be more government employees. So I just think you have to have compassion on people, like they're saying, like they're retired. I also like the man who said, who knows if we're going to be here in 12 years? I've had a lot of deaths in my family. I had a cousin just die today. He was only 53. So that's just hard. And when people lose a loved one, they lose their Social Security income from that loved one. So it's very difficult. I did want to state, I have something that was very interesting given to me. It said that Waterford, that we were rated as the 7th safest community in Michigan. And it was reported by our supposed supervisor, Gary Wall, I'm told, in February in your State of the Township address. And that an FBI report stated that we're number 58 as one of the safest large communities in the country. And I think that's great, because I moved here because I had family here. I was raised in Macomb County, but I love being here. Also, that there may be some part that there was new hiring of 7 new full-time police officers and 4 part-time officers as early as 2017.
I can address that for you.
Yes, do.
So I would plan on speaking about this legislator. There is misinformation out there as well. And, that is one of the things that I would characterize as misinformation. We're at 54 full-time police officers. It's what we've been at. We've had some retirements in the last year and a half. So we filled those positions only to be able to keep ourselves at 54. There's been no increase. So that's where that comes from. So what we do is we hire, in most cases, we like to hire, we fill those part-time spots, and when full-time spots become available, we move them into those full-time spots. So there has been no addition, it's only filling of vacancies that were created by retirements.
Well, that's good. I think it's good because the older, more senior officers generally pull down a much higher salary, so I think it's good. Sometimes in the regular non-government world, you can hire 2 people for the price of 1 senior. That's why the seniors get laid off. It's unfortunate.
But you can't have all entry-level police officers, and you can't have them for experience purposes, and you can't have them for the reasons that I spoke of earlier. The idea is to have a workforce where, while you can sustain the same number you're at while people transition out and new people transition in, not having to lose a large amount of people all at one time.
I agree. It's a balancing act, and I think it's good that you're working towards that. I'm also told that we had a federal grant in 2016. That means our federal taxes, because you know we all don't just pay Waterford property taxes, we pay state income, federal income tax. In 2016, the Waterford Regional Fire Department added 39 new firefighters in 2017, and a new fire truck was acquired in 2017. Did you get a grant to do that?
Yes, we've had actually 3 SAFER grants awarded, 2 were funded. So in 2013, we hired 39. They were laid off in it was a 2-year grant, and we laid them off 2.5 years. I was able to stretch that for another half a year, but that was all free money that came into the township.
And
yes, it was. It was your tax dollars that came back to this township.
But you had to lay them all off. You hired them all, and they all went away.
Correct. Well, we never could hire them in the first place, and because of the grant opportunity that we had, we were able to staff our trucks and staff our stations at unprecedented levels for very little cost to the township.
But now they're not here.
No, now they're back. So we got another grant in the 2015 SAFER grant came back. We were able to recall them in 2016, September of 2016, and in fact, just today I submitted to extend that grant for another year. So again, this is your tax dollars being paid to the feds. It's coming back to you, and it's allowing us to staff our stations and trucks at unprecedented levels.
That's good.
Something
Bravo to the grant writer. That's a talent. And then I heard, I've had good news that today it says that Waterford have become one of the most progressive, best equipped, best trained, technologically advanced fire departments in the state of Michigan. That's impressive. And with this progressive approach, the Waterford Fire Department took on the fire protection, this was news to me, for the city of Lake Angeles in 2000, and in February 12, the fire department began contracting fire and EMS to the city of Pontiac. Maybe that's what he was. So the Waterford Fire Department is now the largest staffed fire department in Oakland County.
Correct.
Is that true? Well, that's good. But the odd part is I'm told presently taxpayers in Waterford are going to be voting on this tax increase, and only us who own property in Waterford will be paying this tax increase. But what's happening to Lake Angeles and Pontiac, with whom we share our fire?
Well, as I said, Lake Angeles purchased a fire truck in 2003 for us.
They purchased a fire. So what did that cost? $1 million for a fire truck?
It was about $350,000-$400,000.
So I wonder
plus
how much
they're paying their contract. Their contract goes up 5% every year.
Okay, so they're not getting it. They're paying a fee for it.
Correct.
Same with Pontiac.
The city of Pontiac pays this year. They'll pay $7.1 million for fire protection. As I said earlier, they gave us a $1 million fire truck. They gave us several other fire trucks. They gave us staff vehicles.
Well, now your fire truck situation's sounding a little better since you got this grant money and a couple people bought you a fire truck. Are you feeling better about that?
Am I feeling better about my trucks?
Yeah, your fleet.
No, the Waterford the fleet is still aging. It's aged. Waterford hasn't purchased trucks since 2002.
Yeah. they're getting older. I get it.
And as far as the technology, again, that's been awarded through grants. The reason we have some of the technology we have, the Jaws of Life, CPR devices, stretcher lifts. I wrote these down because I figured this question would come up.
Yeah.
Thermal imaging camera. We were able to do some officer training, EKG monitors, air compressor cascade system.
Okay.
That's all stuff that came through grant money that made us good, to where I didn't have to come to you and ask for more money or come to Mr. Wall and say, hey, I need thermal imaging cameras. And
What
we
do
don't-
they do? What do thermal engine cameras do?
Allows us to see through fire, basically.
Okay, that's good. I did have a question. What was the interest rate? Earlier in the evening, someone talked, we financed something. and
It's
we're
low. It's a very low interest rate. I don't remember what it is.
2 or 3%.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe 2%.
And then how long does that go for?
That was a seven year. Does that sound right, Mark? I think it was 7.
Well, some people have the philosophy it's best to never pay interest. So my goal is you pay it off and you save the money and you use the money that you're paying on interest.
That's exactly what we want to do.
That's
why
the
this-
goal of all homeowners is to pay their mortgage off and be debt free.
I'm a Dave Ramsey follower.
Good.
I want to give
I'm a
the
Dave-
debt-free screen.
Right, and then I would think that because the home values have increased, like we talked about, eventually you're going to be getting a lot more money because everything that you do on property taxes is based on our home values, and we all know they haven't gone down since 2012. They might be leveling off in 18 or 19,
But there are still and I don't have numbers, the number of houses we have that have been sold. But homes
they're
are
very up. I was just on your website like this morning. It's on the Chamber of Commerce or the Waterfront website. It's just up.
right. But once they're up, they only allowed to go up the rate of inflation of 5%, whichever's less.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Take care.
Thanks for coming. Welcome to Waterford.
Okay. Ms. Gotti, we talked in the corner. I just wanted to ask you a question. That flyer you were reading there, did you get that in your mailbox?
Yes.
Did-
Not in my mailbox, just someone gave it to me. And
Somebody gave-
I asked where did it come from, but I'm like, the best part on it was the part where you type in your address and see how much it's going to go up for you. And
I'm
that
talking
makes it work.
about the one that talked about Supervisor Wall at the State of the Township address. That's the one I'm talking
Yeah.
about. That flyer there?
Yeah, it wasn't in my mailbox, on the side. Not inside the mailbox, but about on the side.
Everybody I talked to that came to me or called me about it, they found it in their mailbox. So you noticed there was no U.S. postage paid on it?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, okay. Okay, and then the other thing we were talking about, the last 2 fire trucks we bought, we paid cash for them. I'm not a big advocate paying interest either, because we did pay cash for both of them and appropriate the funds to do that. But again, like I said, it's just, the best thing, and we just talked about the SAFER grant there. Every one of us sitting in here pays federal taxes. You pay exuberant amounts of federal taxes, and they go out, and very rarely they ever come back. So it was nice the SAFER grant brought us in temporary firefighters. So from the day they came in, we knew they were going to be here for 2 years. We stretched out up to 30 months. Now we're trying to take a 2-year grant and get it out to 3. But every person that retired during that time period, we were able to backfill in position with trained firefighters here in Waterford Township. So that was critical too. That was a plus. But the nice thing about this SAD is every penny that comes out of this SAD, if it goes through, stays right in Waterford Township. County, state, federal government don't get a penny. They don't get any of it. It's our money. We're raising it to benefit us, and it stays with us. So that is a plus. And I'm not bashing Oakland County, the state of Michigan, or the federal government. Don't take anything out of context. But the bottom line is, you send out a whole bunch of things. And one of the things she mentioned, and I want you to do, I want you to write your state reps and your congressmen. And when you do, ask them to get the state revenue sharing back up to where it's supposed to be. Right now, we're at 2002 levels. That's where we're at right there. So while we're talking to them, and again, I've been to Lansing on more than one occasion. I talked to reps, I talked to congressmen, I talked to senators and asked them. But again, the state revenue sharing levels are back down to 2002. And if you got those numbers backed up to where they were supposed to be, and everybody's home values went down, we wouldn't even be here tonight. We'd be out on the lake, or at the barbecue, or if you got a lot of ball, watching the Detroit Tigers on TV.
Yes, sir.
My name's Charles Gordon. I am
new to Waterford, about a year, but back in Michigan after a hiatus in another state. We just moved here from the Kansas City area, and I've heard a number of comments. People don't like the August ballot. But I have to tell you that in the area that we lived in for 15 years, they had April ballots and August ballots. And the advantage of that was there was enough time to review proposals, so you had an intelligent response for the voting. When you do everything in November, there's just too much stuff. Too many representatives, too many senators, too many proposals. If you had a tax increase on a November ballot, all most people are going to do is say no. Without any idea of what it's for, good or bad, they're just going to say no, because that's all they have time for. I don't like having to have this kind of information in November, or if you were doing it in April, but at least this is my opportunity to find out what it's all about and why. So I think they need to continue this and make best use of this, so information as important as this special assessment district gets proper hearing and proper understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Vaughn Wagner. I've been a Waterford resident for over 50 years, and I've got a member of my family that's been here for over 70. We've seen the ups and downs in Waterford. Years and years ago, I was told there's two givens in your life. You're going to be born, and you're going to die. And now we can look at a third given, and that's taxes. We all know we pay our taxes. Roughly 9 years ago, as the chief and the police chief, fire chief, and them said, our economy took a really bad dump, and it's going to take a lot of years for it to ever get back. The income coming into the township went with that dump. If we want police protection, fire protection, and our EMS units, we've got to realize we're going to have to pay for it. I'm also a retiree, like I heard other people come up here and state. And I'll tell you what, it's still going to have to be paid for if we want it. If you want to make that police call or that fire call or that EMS unit on your cell phone and have them come and give you their help, you're going to have to pay for it. I find this kind of amazing in a way because I love local government. People can come up here and stand, and what other nation in this world can we do this? I do find it amazing that the police chief and the fire chief are here asking for our help to protect us. Everybody think about that. I did the calculator that was put on the Waterford website that everybody can go to. And for the new SAD, my taxable value on my house is around $89,000. Multiplying that, I come up with $263 a year rough. Roughly $21 a month, roughly 72 cents a day, and roughly 3 cents an hour that I can call and have a police officer step in front of me to protect me, or my fire department protect my house, or someone living in my house with an EMS unit that comes. It was also brought up about the other police and fire millages that we pay. Everyone can do this too because the millage rates are right on your taxes. You can multiply everything up by your taxable evaluation, and it will tell you what you're going to pay a year for technically 5 millages, but there's also one more, it's police and fire department. And when I did that on my taxable residence, I came up with $557 a year. And breaking numbers down like I like to, $46 a month, $1.54 a day, and 6 cents an hour. Now, if I add both those millages together, I come up with 9 cents an hour. As I stated before, to have a police officer step in front of me or our firefighters step in front of me for our protection. This SAD is worth it for the citizens of Waterford. And as I stated earlier with that amazing deal about you chiefs coming to us and asking for our help to protect us, I think it ought to be the other way around. I think we ought to be coming to you and asking you what you need to protect us.
Anybody else? Mrs. Wall.
Hello, Alana Wall. I just have a couple comments to make. You gave a very good explanation, Gary, about why this vote is coming up in August as opposed to November. What I don't understand, not from you, but from the people that are complaining about it being in August, is if, just a number, if 1,000 people come to vote in August, and 510 vote for this, it passes. If 10,000 people come to vote for it in November, using the same percentages, it's going to pass in November or August. There's a chance that it's going to fail in August too. And I don't understand what the complaint is about people when they see the reasons that it's being put on the August ballot. I don't understand why, whether it's August or November, it matters. It's still a percentage. You still have to convince the majority of the people to say yes, or if they're on the other side of the coin, the majority of the people to say no. You don't know how it's going to go. It's not up to the three of you to decide that. It's up to the voters of Waterford. So, the fact that you have this town hall and people can actually understand where you're coming from and not think that you're just trying to shuffle money around and scam everybody, August or November makes no difference. The second thing is, when I did the same numbers that Mr. Wagner did and came up with my 3 cents an hour also, if the lady that was up here is correct in her $1,189 taxes, her house taxable value, according to what I have in my, what I did with mine, is $394,000 for taxable value, which means her house value is $792,000. And for her, at 10 cents an hour, it seems like a bargain. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
Gary Mobley, newly retired Waterford resident.
Congratulations.
Can we just talk a little bit about what is going to happen? We've heard of what a great fire and police force we have. Can we talk a little bit about what's going to happen if this is voted down?
Well, from a police perspective, we will continue to operate as we are. And as those vacancies become available, we will, fill them as we can. As it stands now, there are occasions when staffing levels are at a point where we have to supplement with people in on overtime. So that's what we do. And so if this doesn't pass, we will continue to operate as we do. At some point, depending on the workload or the number of people that we have, the services may see, you may see a reduction in the service that we're able to provide. We've come to expect ourselves to deliver a high level of service because the citizens of this township have come to expect a high level of service, and that's what we do. When somebody calls, we want to be able to send you a police officer, and we want to be able to put them in a car that will get them there. So we will, like I said, we'll operate as we do, and we'll do the best we can, but it's not at all the optimal situation. As people begin to retire, it will deteriorate, and we'll have to make some tough decisions.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the same boat. We'll do the exact same thing. We will do the very best we can, but I will tell you that those trucks are going to continue to age. A 27-year-old truck will become a 35-year-old truck in 8 years. Those trucks will continue to age. The salt will continue to assault the trucks. Our personnel will do their very best to get to your fire, to your chest pain medical, whatever it is, to the best of their ability. That's what they will do. The questions were brought up about safer. Well, what are you going to do when you get rid of the safer? We'll go back to the 96 that we have on the line, and we'll function that way, just like we did before.
I'll tell you this, and I think I can speak to firefighters too. I started in police work in 1984. My dad was a policeman before that for 30 years. And it not only became, from the very beginning, we get people in this business, especially now, that have a calling, and that's what they do. They're public servants. We used to get some people that maybe wanted to try it as a career. We used to get some people that maybe wanted to try a career change. But with the climate out there and the way the public sees police in some instances, and the way some police officers are treated in some instances, there are fewer and far between the people that want to come here and do this job. But we still get those people that have the calling to do it. And these 54 men and women that come here every day have that calling. And they do a terrific job. And they work at night when you're sleeping, and they work on the weekends, and they work holidays. And whether or not we're at 54, or whether we get to 63, they'll still do it. They'll still come to work at night, they'll still come to work on the weekends, they'll still come to work during the holidays, and they'll still do everything they do today. It doesn't mean that it's right, it doesn't mean that it's perfect for us, but we'll do everything we can with what we have.
Thank you. I don't think I need to say anymore. Just put fire in there where it says police.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, good evening. Michael, my wife and I just moved to Waterford 2 years ago. Thank you very much. I represent a different generation than the folks in the room. So I'm here, looking at this thing from a little bit of a longer term perspective. Ideally we're here for a long haul. We love it here. So a couple questions on that note. I'm a planner by trade, so I look at things from not only what are we doing this year, but also many years in the future. So I don't know the history of where we've been and why we were there. I'm more focused on where we're going. So, based on what I've heard and I understand tonight, based on the historical mills that are already on the rolls, what's to say that several years from now we're not sitting here having the same conversation? I mean, so does this fix the next 12 years and we're not going to be having the same discussion 5 years from now?
In regards to the special assessment?
Correct, yeah, yes. I mean, does this SAD get you to where you need to be for the next 12 years? Can you say that with a high degree of likelihood?
If we can get to a point where we increase our staff by 9 today, and everything being equal, if you can predict there will or will not be a downturn in the economy like there was in 2008, you're better than I am.
Okay, so assuming we still have growth.
Assuming that doesn't happen and we continue to see growth as we have, and we can get to 63 in terms of personnel, because really that is our biggest issue, we're in a far better place then than we are today. Could we continue to operate like that for the next 12 years? Assuming everything stays the same. assuming everything stays equal, assuming the crime rate stays the same, assuming that the population stays the same, assuming there's no downturn in the economy, assuming the assessed values continue to rise, then I would be comfortable in saying, sure, 12 years, we won't have this conversation for another 12 years.
Okay.
Would you agree?
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the Lake Angeles and Pontiac issue for fire specifically, do you have any data on what percentage of your calls go to those communities as compared to Waterford?
Yeah, Lake Angeles gave us 40 calls last year.
Out of how many total? I'm sorry.
Over 13,000 calls.
Okay.
So they gave us 40 calls. That's the most. Normally it's 32-ish.
Sure. Not surprising. How about Pontiac?
Pontiac is at 4,400.
Okay.
And Waterford is, as I said, is at 8,500.
Okay. And what percentage of your budget specifically is Pontiac contributing to?
I'm going to say, almost 50%. What is that? Pretty close.
What's your budget? My budget is
Well, my budget's 19, but I got Safer in there too. So Safer's 4, so close to 50%.
Okay.
So 19 and 14. We're going to get.
Oh, so they're kicking in a reasonable percentage, actually more than. Okay. And then with respect to, is it Safer, the grant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you required to utilize that money for people, or can you use it for equipment?
Only for people.
Only for people. Perfect.
Yeah.
That answers my
Matter of
question.
fact, we had some money left over in the last award. It's totally it's reimbursement. Every pay period we get reimbursed. And I think we had $300,000 at the end of the first grant that was remaining. And I tried like heck to get them to allow us to buy fire trucks with those. Honestly, I did. That was our
Perfect. That's my intent to my
they
question,
were like,
right?
They were dead set. They were not going to do that.
Okay, so fair enough. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody? Yes.
The lady with the camera.
Well, my way today is not a Waterford resident. I live in Oakland Press. Can you tell me the dollar amount that Lake Angeles is paying in this year?
It's $230, I think, $240,000. I don't have the exact budget number.
Thank you very much.
It's over 200,000.
And so the public knows that Lake Angeles' contract pays for their services and Pontiac's contract pays for those services. They're not positive they need to do those.
Any more questions? Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for their time. Thank you for the questions. We appreciate the opportunity to present all the facts to you as we know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.